so equipment.
That's great to hear. That's what we think. But we are only building presentations. You guys are building real stuff.
Oh, also here in the US, it's happening. It started. There's projects, there's equipment moved, there's infrastructure in place.
Yeah.
And more companies are really devoting investments to that type of business. Mm-hmm. But it also has gone another step forward, where then our solution would kick in. Like 5-6 years ago, I think everybody was happy to be able to have a pilot installation running reliably in a small scale. And money didn't play much of a role. It was more important that it would run at least as long as all of the pictures were made. And that was kind of the challenge on high pressure hydrogen fueling. But what we now see is that the projects that we see right now still have a lot of CapEx funding. Mm-hmm. But everybody needs to have a rock solid business plan for being operationally successful in the future. And the cities and the oil and gas companies are challenging those projects for being sustainable on an OPEX basis. Mm-hmm. So what has happened is that the pressure to the supply industry, suppliers such as us, has developed from get me something that is technically working into something that is helping me operationally how I want to run a station and can assure me total cost of ownership that make my project viable. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and those are already 2 points that we would like to address, because we see that today there's plenty of technology available in the market of compressors that can handle high pressures. But to be flexible, to allow an operator to start low with low demand and then scale upwards, to run through load cycles every day, because fueling is not constant load, and to be able to build a station with an attractive total cost of ownership. At the end of the day, the price at the station need to be attractive for the people that are buying hydrogen. Mm-hmm. Is something what we try to bring into our compressor concept. So very soon we have understood that the reciprocating compressor would be able to fulfill the flexibility needs and the total cost of ownership, but we need to make it working under these high pressures. And that's the challenge that we were taking up together with Ariel.
Okay. So where do you think 5 years from now will most of these compressors be deployed commercially?
So first, that's pretty interesting to say, because when we look into our projects right now, they come from everywhere. Mm-hmm. We see early movers being in Europe. In Europe at the moment, there's a high push from cities, from communities that convert their local bus fleets or truck fleets from internal combustion engines into zero emission. And very often these zero emissions on the higher duty vehicles means hydrogen. Mm-hmm. Because batteries may be a very good solution for cars and for light duty vehicles, but maybe not so much for heavy duty vehicles. So that's kind of the first wave what we see. Interestingly enough, there's a lot of projects also here in the US on passenger car side, but also on fleet operators, large fleet operators that run dozens, hundreds of trucks for shipping products back and forth. They are also very interested in projects. What's happening in Asia and in China and in Korea and in Japan is something where we are, well, like scratching our head a bit. There's a lot of interest, but then there's this localization needs that are coming from there. So we'll need to see how that market is developing.
Yeah. Markus, to me, somebody who's coming from the process industry, it's been shocking to hear that you can develop a new compressor in 2 years. Is that, were you surprised by that? Were you expecting that? I'm curious. You can't develop a new process in the process industry in 2 years. It's going to take several years to kind of get from lab scale to commercialization. So I'm curious as to how quickly new technology development can occur in the compression space.
We're actually building a lot of the elements on proven technology. The overall concept is new, but then you also see what horsepower you can bring to a project if there's the right purpose behind. And that is something what we see, the excitement and the support for doing something also good, not only something what is technically interesting, but something that gives people a lot of purpose, is setting a lot of energy free. And then the team is a team of Ariel and a team of Hoerbiger, and there's quite a number of resources devoted to that project.
Yeah.
The other thing is when we started the project, our time horizon was looking much more into the future, because hydrogen is knocking on that, green hydrogen and hydrogen mobility is knocking on our doors a couple of times in the past, and now is it really coming, is it not coming? So we said, well, let's be realistic. The large wave of deployment of that technology is going to be like 7-8 years down the road. What we're astonished to see is the momentum that it's getting, and the speed that projects and the volume of projects that are coming. So it was not really our intention to do it in that short period of time, but we see the need of the market and the pressure of customers to get commercial available products in 2025, 2026, that time frame.
So when we think of the compression market, we think of Ariel as the dominant player in high-speed recips that are used for gas gathering and processing. And then on the other end, we probably see players like Burkhardt, who are very dominant in the low, medium speed recip market. Where does this compressor fit across that spectrum?
So speed-wise and size-wise, it's kind of in the middle between the two worlds. That's why we also see at the moment that various companies approach that market from different starting points, where we believe, so we truly believe that a highly standardized solution, and that is something that Ariel is top one, undisputed number one in the world, will be key to be able to meet the cost objectives and in that industry. Whereas the API market is a very built for that particular purpose and not very many repeatable compressor builds. I think the serialization and the standardization is one key element to be able to meet the cost objectives that industry will have.
And so within that spectrum, how should we think of a diaphragm compressor? Where does that fit in that spectrum? So for, I don't know how many people here, but diaphragm compressors are like supposedly the gold standard. Maybe you'll disagree with that phrasing, but they're supposed to be the industry standard when it comes to the hydrogen fueling, refueling value chain.
Diaphragm compressors are, I would say that diaphragm compressors are the gold standard for high pressure applications. They're also used in chemical applications and I guess in refining applications. At the moment, with the volumes that we use in hydrogen fueling, diaphragm compressors or hydraulic compressors are the dominating compression technologies. So we believe that diaphragm compressors will have, also in the long run, a place in that market for either smaller stations or for the very high pressure applications. So it could very well be that the ground load of compression, let's say up to 7,000 psi, will be done by a recip, and if needed up to 14,000 psi will come a diaphragm technology into game.
That makes sense.
Can be a hybrid system, can be so that's a possible outcome in a market and an industry environment where it's not really clear what is the final solution.
So as you think of commercializing your new compressor technology, I mean, I think it's a good thing that a lot of this market just doesn't exist and it's still coming up, right? I mean, I don't think your management would have agreed to develop a new compressor technology if you wanted to go put it in refineries, because it's already an established thing and those guys are never going to try serial number 1 when there's serial number 1000 on some of the existing.
Right.
So, but how do you think of commercializing the technology? Like, is it, you know, I guess what is your plan, or how will you go to market with this new technology?
So there's going to be different customer groups that are just like developing. What we for sure see is that the biggest players from our perspective, as like being the companies that we talk to, are those companies that are building either trailer filling stations where they can trailer hydrogen to industry applications or to fuel stations, or are the fuel station builders themselves. And there is 3-4 large players. Nel is one of them. That's very innovative in the fuel station technology. But there's also going to be the energy companies that are engaging and will engage in hydrogen infrastructure. We've heard today about Phillips 66. There was an announcement like 3 weeks ago about that Total and Air Liquide have committed to make a joint venture to bring 100+ large hydrogen refueling stations into Western Europe. Those are those type of companies that we talk about commercialization and ramping up the volumes.
Excellent.